Do you think the United States is more racist today than any time in its history? Everyone is supposed to know what the racism is. It is a massive problem in the United States. My name is Daichi Nakao, and I will talk about how the United States is more racist today than at any time in its history. There are 328 million people living in the United States, composed of countless ethnic backgrounds. Clearly, the United States has had a long history of racism. Through this history have been the contribution of many brave anti-racist activists. Despite this, racism in the United States is quite apparent today. The United States is more racist today because the debate over the topic has further polarized in participants. Unfortunately, there are not very fine people on both sides. Not everyone is informed on the history of racism in the United States. The concept of race, as we understand it today, was previously divided into only two categories: white or slave. Europeans used these words in the 1500s and were eventually responsible for bringing the terms to North America. One reason I think the United States is more racist today than any time in its history is, despite the brave efforts of countless activists, people of color in the United States feel more threatened than ever before. This in part stems from having a 4-year term with one of the most outspokenly racist former president. One does not need to look far for evidence of this. Exclu- Executive Order 13769 is only one example, known as the Muslim ban by many. This order banned people from 7 Middle Eastern countries. Trump claimed that he wanted to keep Muslims out of the United States in order to keep terrorists out. Muslims are not terrorists, and the former president only attacked the racial minority that has already been widely targeted in the United States since 2001. It is not surprising that hate crimes rose during Trump's presidency. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was the first major immigration restriction in the United States. Many Americans on the West Coast blame Chinese immigrants for their low salaries and economic troubles. I never knew that at the end of the 800s, not 800s, 1800s, sorry, Chinese people were prohibited from receiving American citizenship. It is unthinkable that an act like this was signed by President Chester A. Arthur during that time. You would think that such obviously anti-Chinese sentiment would not be expressed by President, but it was when Donald Trump spoke publicly of the China virus when referring to the coronavirus. This caused an increase in racism against Americans of Asian appearance in the United States. I too have experienced this. One example is when people would refer to me as Jap when I was in the majority white high school. At the time, I didn't understand the historical implications and kept quiet. Aside from racism on the federal level, minorities also face discrimination from their local police. Last year, one innocent man by the name of George Floyd was murdered by the group of police officers as he was arrested. The officer that was kneeling on the Floyd's neck while he was pinned to the ground. Floyd repeatedly told them that he could not breathe, but the officer did not stop. This news was shocking because there was clear and irrefutable video evidence that a police officer sworn to protect innocent civilians had executed one. After the death of George Floyd, I began to learn more about racism in the United States and the police. Until last week, I had not yet seen this type of discrimination in person. So last week, my friend got into the car accident. She's white, and the woman she got into an accident with was Latina. The accident was my friend's fault as she missed the stop sign, but the policeman, that was white male, was very nice to her and blamed the accident on the other woman, saying incorrectly that the Latina woman should have hit her brakes while my friend ran to the stop sign. Still legally, it's my friend's fault, but the police told the insurance company it was not my friend's fault and she was covered fully by her insurance. The Latina woman did not have insurance, so she probably had to pay a lot, and the blame of the accident was put on her. I was there because my friend called me after the accident to pick her up, and I witnessed how the Latina woman was treated differently than my Caucasian friends. The police officer was very nice to my friends and was talking bad about the other woman. I have always heard stories of racism and sexism, um, but I have never seen it happen so obviously and definitely not by the police officer. Uh, Many of you wondered when I started this presentation how I would prove the United States is more racist not than ever when slavery was once widespread and Japanese Americans were sent to prison camp. Of course, in the past, the United States had grand displays of racism. However, for every historical and obvious injustice perpetrated against people of color in the United States, there are countless unnoticed cases of discrimination. In the past several decades, the United States has made strides to put an end of these overt displays of racism in favor of an increase in microaggressions and other racism acts. In this way, the United States is more racist than ever. Thank you.